I want to just dive into this game because I want to make sure we have plenty of time to really do it. The bottom line of it is this. Every really good team besides San Francisco has some sort of flaw somewhere or another. A week ago, we were talking about the Cowboys like they were a rocket ship. Like, oh, my goodness. That one bad game, and it was bad, it felt less like a bad game than it felt like something was exposed in the Cowboys. Is that going to happen again this Sunday?
You know what? I'm going to be honest. I don't know if it's going to happen again. Right? Because we've seen both of these teams have flaws. The Miami Dolphins have everything you need for it to happen again. The Miami Dolphins have an offensive coordinator and head coach in Mike McDaniel that understands how to diagram and scheme plays to put you in bad positions from a run standpoint. And Micah Parsons doesn't fit the run as well as he rushes the passer. Every team that has exploited this defense, the Arizona Cardinals, the San Francisco 49ers, obviously last week the Buffalo Bills, they've done it with the run. And then now you go to the other side of the football, and Dak Prescott and this offense haven't played well from behind. They haven't been able to find that comfort that allows Dak Prescott to be the sort of player that distributes the football and runs the team back into a game. The only thing that scares me is this. Defensively, the Dallas Cowboys don't do schematically what you need to do to make the Miami Dolphins one-dimensional. And when you don't make them one-dimensional, they run up the scoreboard. So schematically, this game leans more toward the Miami Dolphins. I'm just picking the Dallas Cowboys because I just want to be fun.
Okay, so here's the question on the screen, Bart. How do the Cowboys overcome their struggles on the road? I've been fighting this battle all week long. I think that the road home thing is a little overrated. I understand the record. I understand they're 3-4 on the road and they're perfect at home. It feels to me like some of these things might have happened wherever the game was played. How significant is the fact that the Cowboys are on the road?
I mean, it's very significant because we know they're two different teams. They're two different teams because on the offensive side of the ball, they don't have the luxury of communication, so you have to do things that are uncomfortable to you.
Explain that a little more.
Well, the crowd noise, silent accounts, being able to make your adjustments, everybody being able to see the signs, things of that sort.
But why does that affect them more than it does everybody? As a general rule, the home road advantage has never been less significant in the NFL than it is right now.
I mean, because you have to go there and you have to communicate, and you also got to go there with two plays. So you're doing a check with me type of offense. You got to be able to check, and then if you can't, have the communication, one person doesn't get the check, and then, somebody's offsides or somebody misses an assignment, and then you're behind the sticks. This is a team that got exposed like a nerve. And you talk about, in this league is a copycat league. If you show that you soft, and when you get the ball ran in between the tackles down your throat, when you got Damone Clark getting thrown out the club like Players Club, like Tiny Zeus Lester, punch his boy in the back of the head, then you have to get respect back. They got to go back and get respect back because now they look like we would say, man, these dudes soft. And listen, they have to go back and show that they can be physical, and they may not be able to do that with a 205-pound linebacker. They might have to consider taking Micah Parsons and putting him back in his natural position. He knows how to fit the run from the Mike position. He's played it his entire life. They're going to need that because they need some blunt force trauma in the middle of that defense.
Greeny, I work with Brian Schottenheimer, the Dallas offensive coordinator, for a number of years at the Jets. And to answer your question, he would say, hey, it's our responsibility to give the quarterback two plays so he has the answers to the test at the line of scrimmage. It's a lot easier to communicate at home than what will be very loud, certainly in Buffalo and this week in Miami. But that's philosophically what they want to do. And Dak is very smart. That's why they've been so successful. They get to the right matchup most of the time.
That heat, too, that check engine light can come on when you're not used to playing in South Florida late in the year, too.
That's a separate factor. I understand what you're saying, and I get the communication thing. What I'm saying is, when I watch the Cowboys lose these games on the road, generally I feel it's because they're being out physical.
Greeny, what do they do that travels? They don't do the things that travel, right? Physicality travels.
Okay.
You can pack physicality with you, right? If I'm good enough, or if I'm willing to stick my face in the fan, you stick your face in the fan no matter where you play.
Right.
You don't need crowd noise so I can rush the passer. You don't need the crowd to be quiet offensively so I can get between one or two plays. You don't need that if you're doing something that travels. What San Francisco does, that travels. What Baltimore does, that travels. It doesn't do the same thing with the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys, they do need pristine environment, pristine circumstances to go out and win. They don't have that on the road.
We also maybe could settle who's going to win the MVP. As we speak, Brock Purdy is the favorite. Lamar Jackson is next. Lamar Jackson, I would have to believe. This award has literally changed hands
Right?
every week in public perception. If Lamar plays a big game Monday night and the Ravens win, maybe Lamar Jackson winds up winning his second.
Well, the
MVP.
way, see, Greeny, I like how you phrased it in the second hour.
Right.
First hour was like, Lamar wins, he's the MVP.
Well,
no.
you got mad at me about that, but let me make a point. Because you were basically saying, well, there's a scenario in which they win the game and he doesn't play great. Is there?
Not really.
Is there really a
Not
scenario
really.
in which
Not really.
and maybe that's the whole debate about Brock Purdy and the Ravens have no chance to win if we don't come in here Tuesday morning and say, boy, Lamar was awesome.
And I agree with that, right? But we also have to look at Lamar Jackson and the different scale he seems to be critiqued on, the different scale that Patrick Mahomes is critiqued on. Like, they're compared to themselves. And when you look at what Brock Purdy is doing and the way that he executes, everybody's looking at him and say, okay, he's efficient. They're looking at the statistics and the numbers. That's not how it works for Lamar Jackson. They look at the way it happens, right? They want to watch the film and feel a certain thing from the way he plays. If he executes at a high level and does what he has to do for this team to win, which no other quarterback in the entire NFL is asked to do, yes, he then now leads the MVP race. But there's so much that's heaped on to Lamar Jackson. I feel like the scrutiny and the expectations of him are so much different than a lot of the other quarterbacks in the league.
Put the picks up on the screen, Cindy, if you could, while we have the conversation. Listen.
Okay, Bart.
Bart, the only one guy is riding with his Ravens.
I'm a stand on it.
I like it. How about that discussion? The Brock Purdy, whose numbers suggest he's having the best season of any quarterback in the NFL. But there are many who question how much of it is him and how much of it is the people around him versus Lamar Jackson for MVP.
I mean, when you look at the difference in how they're compared, you do make a great point about how Lamar's judged from his MVP season when he showed us something that we've never seen. But quietly, he's improved so much from the pocket, and for the first time, he has a receiver that we would take in the top 15 in the league, which he didn't have that before. It was all on his back. They took a little bit off his plate, and he's rewarded them. But secretly, when you look at what he's doing running the ball, he's still efficient there. And that's not even the primary thing. And he's buying time. Listen, the difference between Brock Purdy and Lamar Jackson, when the defense has a perfect play, Lamar Jackson can overcome the X and O's. Brock Purdy can't. We saw that when his first options wasn't open and they had that 3-game losing streak.
The difference is when Brock Purdy doesn't have everybody, he ain't Brock Purdy. Like, just be honest.
Exactly.
When Deebo Samuel and Trent Williams
There's
were
two
out,
of them.
and you were asking for Brock Purdy to go win this game in Minnesota. Interceptions. Go win this. Like, he couldn't do those things. Finish this game against the Cleveland Browns. Take us above the X's and O's. Take us above what people can make you. Here's the difference. Lamar Jackson makes everyone around him better.
Plus multiplier.
The people around Brock Purdy make Brock Purdy better. That does not mean Brock Purdy shouldn't be the MVP. Well, these two people love love this phrase, force multiplier. He is not.
It's his word.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's his word.
But tying this to the MVP and Monday Night Greeny, Ronnie Stanley, unusually this year, he rotates, which is really unusual for an offensive lineman.
It makes $100 million.
If Baltimore wins, Lamar Jackson's going to have to overcome some really bad left tackle play against Chase Young and Nick Bosa, something that Brock Purdy couldn't do. And that's why, like, those two things are tied together in my mind.
I had Marcus Spears here on Wednesday, and he said something that I thought was fascinating, and you guys are both defensive players. He said, when you're playing defense, and you come in for your Wednesday meeting and you're going to start your game planning for that week, it's when you're playing Baltimore, the first name they talk about is Lamar Jackson. When you're playing San Francisco, Brock Purdy is not the first name that gets mentioned. Is that
He's
right?
the fourth.
I don't even know if we would have him on our scouting report.
Because you look at, he would be on my scouting report because he's absolutely dealing. But it would be Christian McCaffrey, and then it would be Deebo Samuel, and then it would be George Kittle, and then it would be Brandon Ayuk. Because my thought process would be, let's figure out where they're lined up and what are the tips and tendencies from where these people are lined up. We're going to attack Brock Purdy with our front. Y'all got to go get to him at some point. But on the back end, it's figuring out how Kyle Shanahan is going to utilize all of these skill players that he has. And that's okay. I think the problem is this. It's like when you say something like that about Brock Purdy because of his numbers, it's, oh, you're hating or this and that. No, it's not that. It's we've watched this offense execute a certain way, and based on his statistics, he's the best Kyle Shanahan has had.
Yeah.
You ain't taking him over a lot of these other quarterbacks.
Get in here, Danny.
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with what's being asked of them, right? And I think Brock Purdy obviously fits what Shanahan wants to do.
Yeah.
And I think in Baltimore, they've built something that obviously Lamar Jackson is great
the
at.
system.
Right? So I think, look, you talk about MVP, degree of difficulty cannot just be the only the factor. Like a level of accomplishment at the end of the day has to factor in. And what Brock Purdy is doing is at the very top of the league in all these categories. I mean, there's no bigger Lamar Jackson fan than me. Like, if I just based on I enjoy watching him play and how important I would vote for MVP every single year. But the fact is, Purdy is having a better year.
Well, the reality is it's going to be settled on the field because at the end of the day, if Lamar Jackson beats San Fran and then beats another front runner in Tua Tagovailoa the next week, then you hand the award to him because he's going to have his Heisman moment in the NFL.
But the MVP favorite changes every single week, so that can't possibly happen.
Well, it could be Lamar after this one, and that would be a change. I feel like they have taken some of these chances because of their faith in Tomlin. They say, well, if I bring this guy in, I can bring him in here because Mike.
I said that in the first hour, right? Coach Tomlin is comfortable trying to raise young men, trying to give people the space in order to be themselves and feel accepted.
Yeah, you know what's really interesting to me, what RC was saying? Greeny, this is truly transformational because let's say Mike Tomlin has an amicable departing. Take a team like Seattle. There's no way Pete Carroll is going to be fired. But when you're running an organization, it's the juxtaposition of this player or this coach versus who's available.
Right.
And if I own the Seattle Seahawks, Pete Carroll's a lot closer to the end, to the beginning, and I could go get a franchise coach like Mike Tomlin, that changes everything. So what I'm saying is, if that amicable departure actually happens, it was like when Andy Reid went to Kansas City.
Yes.
The line would be around the corner, and coaches that Graz would say are safe changes overnight.
For the record, he's 51 years old. Mike Tomlin is 51, so more than young enough, younger than Andy Reid was when he left.
But think about how young he was when the Steelers hired him.
Right.
And if you talk about this happening, and think about Bill Cowher was young when the Steelers hired him. You say they know what they're doing. It's because they know what they're looking for.
Right.
They're trying to identify an ascending young leader of men. They're not looking for. We'll hear over the next couple of weeks. Should they hire an offensive coach? Should they hire a defensive coach? Wrong conversation. You're looking for a leader. And they found one in Mike Tomlin, and they will look for that again. And if their track record is any indication, they'll probably find one. But it is easier said than done. And when people in Pittsburgh who might want Mike Tomlin out, they need to think about that. What comes next, right? Because it worked. It eventually worked for the Eagles, right? Doug Peterson came, but Chip Kelly did not succeed Andy Reid in a successful way. So there are steps back that you can take if you aren't careful with it. Fortunately for Steelers fans, if they do make this decision, it will be thoughtful and reasoned, and they will be having the right conversations about what comes
Knowing
next.
him as you do, is your sense that Mike Tomlin would want to go directly to another job? Do you think he might take a year and do television? He would be unbelievable on television.
First off, he'd be the best in the world, but I don't know necessarily if this is for him. Like, that man is made to lead men. Yeah. He is made to coach. Like, he would always talk about the art of war and all of these different things. He's been preparing for this role his entire life. And sometimes in those roles, though, you need new challenges, right? And then, it's been a challenge to try to get this team back to what it was, but to go and take over somewhere else and say, this is who I am, this is what I preach, these are my words, and this is how it comes to fruition on the grass, that would be a challenge I know he would love.
You know who he loves?
Aaron
Who
Rodgers.
does he love?
He loves Aaron Rodgers. Remember that moment when he and Aaron Rodgers were making googly eyes at each other? Ryan Clark, do you remember that?
I
that
do.
game, Green Bay and Pittsburgh, and they're looking at each other and they're giving that look. It was almost a seductive. They like each other. Listen, you got his number? Give me Tomlin's number.
I do have his
Give
number.
me Tomlin's number. If the Jets could hire you,
That's
get on the phone
tampering,
with
Greeny.
somebody.
That's tampering.
I'll tamper. It's not tampering if I do it. I can call him right now.
In all seriousness, Brady, he becomes a free agent.
I couldn't be more serious.
Yeah, no, he becomes a free agent, and now all of a sudden he's going to assess salary cap situation, quarterback situation.
Yes.
And hey, do I want to coach Geno Smith? Do I want to coach Aaron Rodgers for a year? Justin Herbert is another one.
Caleb Williams.
Caleb Williams. Yeah. So like that's actually those are the conversations he would be having, and assessing what he thinks is the best situation.
Should we send Tomlin the jersey?
No.
Do I send him the Rodgers jersey?
Please don't.
I could get the Rodgers jersey to him pretty
Please
quickly.
don't.
Send it to that little cave you were describing. You know where it is.
We may not get Greeny back.
No. I'm in the act of renaming the children right now. They aren't awake yet.
At least you can have a junior.
Yes, exactly right. I'll have a junior. My son will become Mike Greenberg Jr. My daughter will be little Tomlin Greenberg.